Good morning. How are y'all doing today? A lovely Wednesday morning here in North Carolina. Not really, it's a little bit overcast, but it definitely could be worse. I am very, very excited to be here. I know I haven't the last 2 Wednesdays, and I am sorry for that, and am going to do better, I promise. I'd like to be able to plan and to be able to let you all know that I'm going to be on from, at 10 o'clock every Wednesday, which is the goal. So we'll see how it goes. I am trying something new today. I am still dying. I'm still going to tell you everything that I'm doing when I'm dying. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to dye the colorway Ranunculus, which it's one of my favorites. It's kind of a pinky peachy kind of color. It's very kind of spring-like, which is what I'm feeling like doing today. So I'm going to dye 2 skeins of each of the 4 bases that I ordinarily dye on, which is my everyday sock, my DK everyday, my sparkly sock, and also my sparkly DK. So I'm going to do 2 each of those. And what I've done is I've started, as you can see over on this on the side of the screen, on the other side of the screen from that camera, is I've done the first and second steps on some of them, so that I'm hoping that it's going to kind of take away that, okay, I put this layer of dye on and then I've got to wait 10 or 15 minutes before I can put the next one on, kind of a thing, which is, it's just kind of a, I don't want to waste y'all's time like that. I am cognizant that not all of us have all of the time in the world. So anyway, so we're going to try that and see how that works. And then also another benefit of this is by the time we get to the end, I already have one dyed that I can show you, so you can see how it all works out. So it's kind of like a dyeing time lapse, time lapse. So let me see how it goes. I'm going to go ahead and switch this over so that we can see the other camera completely. And I appreciate all of you being here right today and this morning. And I also definitely appreciate those of you who are watching this later, which probably is easier for most of us. So anyway, welcome all. But if you would like to leave any comments and have any questions, you're welcome to do so through the Facebook comments. And I'm not going to be able to see them when I'm actually dyeing, but I'll pop back over in between layers and see if there's anything that I can clear up, or any questions or comments or anything that you have. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put one more layer on one of these front ones real quick. And then I'm going to do the first layer on the one in the back. Okay, this is the Sparkly DK, which, if truth be told, is probably one of my favorite vases. I mean, not just because it's sparkly, but I mean, how can you not like that? But once it dyes up and it dries, it's very, very squishy and fluffy, and I just love the sparkliness of it also. Okay. As you can see, I pull the skeins out in between layers and kind of readjust them a little bit and kind of plump them back in. I know that there are dyers out there that kind of line theirs up in a pan, and I mean, that's great for them. That's what works with their dyeing style and what they're trying to achieve. For me personally, I like things to be a little bit more I don't want to say uniform, because that's not right, because obviously it's variegated with lots of different colors. But what I'm hoping to achieve is when you are using your yarn and knitting with it or crocheting with it or weaving with it or whatever it is that you're doing, that you're not going to have a massively different area of color in one part of your project and another massively different color in the rest of your project. I'd kind of like for it to be, you know, kind of looking at it and being able to say that that's all one thing, and you've got little bits of pink and little bits of this and little bits of that, but kind of all scattered around. So the best way that I have found to do that is by kind of, when I put the yarn in here and kind of pile it up, it kind of makes things a little bit more random, and you have different parts of the yarn showing. And anyway, that just seems to be working out pretty well for me. But this layer that I just put on here is kind of a melony orange, a little bit more than coral, more orange than coral, I would say. And this base back here is my everyday sock. And I'm going to put the first layer on that, which is kind of a light peachy color. You'll notice on most of my colorways, I kind of layer the colors on from lighter to darker. So this first color that I'm putting on, this peach color, is which you can see over here, which is already done. And this one here is a kind of a light pastel-y type of color. So it's kind of putting a lighter base kind of on the whole thing. And then you know, the next color is a little bit darker, and then a little bit darker. And then usually the third or fourth color, I happen to have 4 on this one, is the darkest yet. You'll see that there's just a little bit of dye in here, but I'm going to go ahead and dilute it with some water because I want it to be able to cover, you know, pretty much this whole top area. And if I just use that tiny little bit, it would just give little dribbles, and it wouldn't really give the look that I'm going for. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and let that set for a little bit. I have to write down and keep track of this, y'all, because it is not in my brain to be able to know what I'm doing in all of these pans at one time. Okay, so this pan right here is the DK Everyday. I'm gonna go ahead and rearrange the skeins. I use a reusable nylon zip tie just to help me get it in and out of the water a little bit easier. But when I'm putting the yarn back, I move the zip tie, I'd say about 1/4 of the way down the skein, just so that when I'm putting things in, I'm putting them in a different orientation, and different parts of the yarn are showing on the top. Like you can see there's a lot more white here than there was, because there was a lot of the whiter and lighter colors that were underneath. So I'm going to want those to be on the top so that the next color will help take care of those. Okay, this color that I'm doing is kind of a a light pink color. Let's see how much I need of this. Okay, here's the pinky color. Just love the way these pinks and peaches kind of play together. So when I pour the dye on top of this, you'll notice that there's more kind of concentrated areas in the top, which is what I want. But that kind of darker color underneath the water is kind of hitting the water and dispersing and becoming more dilute, I guess, more spread out, a less concentrated color. And so underneath here, which we can't see, you're also going to get this same pink color, but it's going to be much more diluted, and it's also going to mix with the peaches that are already under there, and that's how you get such a cool variegated color. Okay. This right here is my sparkle sock. This has this layer and this layer on it already. So I'm going to rearrange this. And you can see these darker areas under here, which were on the top when we dyed that last layer. So I'm going to kind of put that underneath and have some of the lighter up top and some of the lighter peach, and so then this next darker color is going to get on top of that. Okay, this layer that I'm putting on this one is the same layer that I just put on this one, which I didn't get to before I started going live. So that's why I'm doing this twice. As you can see, this is just a tiny little bit of this color. It's very, very concentrated. So I'm just going to dilute this about halfway with some water just to ease the pour a little bit. Because I'm not wanting as much of this color to kind of dilute and spread out everywhere. This and also the last color that I'm going to do, because like I said, they're very concentrated colors, and I don't want it overwhelming all of the lighter colors that are there. I want them to kind of mix and play a little bit, but not get completely covered by the darker colors, if that makes sense. Now I'm going to head back to the sparkly DK, which we just put on right as we went live. You can see the pinks and the purples and the peaches kind of all scattered and throughout. You all can probably hear my dog snoring in the background. If any of you know anything about little kitties, they love to sleep, and they sure make a lot of noises while they're doing it. I wish I could show you the picture of her. She's actually really funny looking right now. She's passed out asleep in a very weird position. Okay, so this final color that I'm doing is also a pinky color, but it's a darker and more concentrated, kind of a different tone than the lighter pink that we did before. I'm not sure if you can see the scale today, but I measure how much dye that I'm using on each one, so that, I mean, obviously there's going to be differences in the dye lots, but I'd like to at least have the same amount of dye going in each one, so that we can, so that you can use them together. Or if you loved it when you knitted it up in the sparkly sock and you'd like a DK one because you want to make a hat out of it, then, at least you're going to know what the color is going to look like. So this is just a tiny, tiny little bit. So I'm going to dilute that also with a little bit of water. So that is a very vibrant, concentrated, more of a purpley pink than the last one, the last pink that we did. All right, I'm just taking my gloves off, and then I'm gonna pop on over and show you how this ends up looking. So this pan right here is the last pan. Everything has been applied, and I'm gonna let that simmer there for about half an hour or so, maybe 45 minutes, depending. Just because that dark pink is so vibrant, I want to make sure that it binds within the yarn, so that when I rinse it and when you rinse it, when you block your stuff, that the dye is not coming out in the water. I'm back. So obviously these other 3 pans aren't finished yet. So after we finish this here, then I'll go and I'll put the rest of them on so that it all ends up the same. And then I'll have 8 new skeins of Ranunculus. So let me show you how it ends up turning out. You can see the little peachiness undertones here on these lighter colors. And then you see the darker kind of melon orange that we put on. There's also these lighter pinks here from that second color that we did. And then you can also see these darker, more concentrated areas, which, come on, Mike, give me a break, which we just did on this last layer. So this is actually this is the everyday sock. I already have 2 of these dyed up. And I also have socks made out of this, so you can see how it knits up. Okay. This will probably give you a little bit of a better idea to what I'm talking about as far as the different colors being kind of dispersed through here. Like if you look at this area right here up at the top of the sock, and then this area down here at the bottom of the sock, they're very similar. There's still the darker pink and the lighter pink and the peach and the darker melon and all of those colors kind of all everywhere, but there's not like a whole like stripy area of the dark pink up here and then no dark pink down here, if that makes sense. So, and also if you look, the second sock is, you can't really tell the difference between that and the first one. And I used acorn. This is the sparkly sock acorn, which is in the autumnal mini skein set. And that's what I used for this toe. And I also like to put a little border around the top of the sock that is the same color as the contrasting heels and or toes that I'm doing. Not exactly sure why I didn't do the toe, or why I didn't do the heel the same acorn, because I usually do. I don't know. I was playing with, I have a Dean & Dean circular sock machine, which you can do that one time. I'll set it up and we'll go ahead and see how that is. It's it's not metal, it's 3D printed, like I want to say plastic because it's not plastic. It's biodegradable. It's made from like a starch or something like that. I'm not really that up on my 3D printing, but it seemed as if it was whenever we're done in this world and whoever past me is done with this dang machine, it's gonna break down anyways. It's not gonna stay in the landfill forever, which was important to me. But I love it, and this is made with the sock yarn, the everyday sock, which you can do. But I found that my favorite thing to do is to use either the DK Everyday or the Sparkly DK. You can do a fewer amount of stitches, and I really like to be able to make samples of all of the yarns that I make so that you can see how they look. Because ultimately, sure, we want the skein to look pretty while it's sitting on the shelf, and I'm all about a pretty skein, but I want to be able to use it, and I want to be able to at least have some sort of an idea what it's going to look like. And having the sock machine, I can crank a tube, I do the cuff at the top, and then I just knit all the way down. My lesson rights are not great today. And then I pull it off the machine, and I pick up the yarn around here and knit the toe, and then I cut in for the heel and do an afterthought heel. And so it's the time that is saved by not having to do the sock all the way from the top to the bottom is immense. I can crank probably the socks, I would say probably an hour, and then it's probably another hour for each sock, just to add the toes and heels. Go. I like doing that. Let me know either in the comments here, or this is going to show back up on Facebook so that you can watch it later. Let me know if you like this kind of, split out different colors, so you can kind of see the process a little bit more, and then also being able to see the yarn afterwards. And that really cuts down on the time that you're going to have to commit to watching this whole thing, and that's important to me. So I'm going to go ahead and head off and finish up these yarns, and I will post pictures tomorrow. Probably in my stories, my Instagram stories, or in my Facebook stories, and we'll see how it all looks. Oh, hey Carrie, I'm so glad that you could come. And I'm glad that you like to see the socks. Yeah, I think that's really, I think it's cool to be able to show how they end up turning out. So I'm going to do that from now on. All right, my dear. I will post these tomorrow on Facebook stories or Instagram stories, and we'll see how it turns out. Oh, you're sweet. Carrie's like one of my biggest fans. She's always so encouraging every time I post in color, which I love. And she's also part of the founding members of the Good Noodle Yarn Club, which is awesome. So she's going to have everything from the beginning. Have you been able to dye anything with, or not dye anything, have you been able to knit or crochet anything out of the Yarn Club yarn yet? Or are you just still loving the way it looks in the skein? Oh, great. She has a sock done. Well, if you feel comfortable doing so, I'd love it if you would post a picture of it online so I can see how it looks and see what you're doing with it. I understand if you don't, but if you do, that would be great. And you could tag me. I'm at Good Noodle Yarn Co. in all of the places. So if you prefer Facebook or Instagram, I'm in all the places. So you can just tag at Good Noodle Yarn Co. Or you can also use the hashtag Good Noodle Yarn Co. And then I'll see it. I would love to see it. All right, my dear. I'm going to go and finish these up, and I will see you next week. Ah, I gotcha. That's right, Carrie. You're learning to make socks. I gotcha. Yeah, socks are, there's definitely a little bit of a learning curve. So I can understand wanting to stick that yarn into you. Good, great, that's good. It's really, I mean, it's there's a lot of stitches, and it can be a little fiddly, especially when you're starting. Especially if you start with your toe and you go up, it can be a little fiddly. But like anything else, you practice that with a little bit. And it's one of my favorite things to knit because it's so portable, and you don't need all of the huge, massive, different skeins and stuff for a sweater. So socks are something that I can just shove in my bag and bring with me when I'm at an appointment or something like that. So. Alrighty, then. I will see you later.